us in front. Well, yes, here. We won't spit on you. So, I'm delighted to see you all here tonight for our event on unleashing data for sustainability. I would like to start with all the thanks. The deepest and most important thanks, they go to all the data that we have inconvenienced for the data platform. But even more sincere and deep thanks to our hosts here, Capgemini, who have been so generous in having us here. And before I start with the introduction, actually, we have a wonderful person, Bob Schwartz, who will give a quick introduction to this wonderful facility and Capgemini. Thank you so much for having us.
Hoping he was going to be me, but I'm not going to take much of your time. I just wanted to say thank you from us to you. This is really important to us. We want to be relevant to this community, to this planet, to this business that we're in. For those of you that don't know Capgemini, I mean, this is my day job. I work here. I'm part of what we call the Applied Innovation Exchange. We have 10, actually 11 of these now. So we've got these located throughout the world. This is sort of our flagship here in San Francisco. And, our day job is we're a consulting, outsourcing technology company. But here we're really just working with our clients on the application of innovation. That's what I get to do every day. You've got probably 5 or 6 folks, maybe they can raise their hands, folks from the AIE around here. If you're on a break or when you're finished, if you want to learn more about what we do, see me, see them. But I just want you guys to have a good event. Just a little bit of housekeeping real quick. The restrooms, since I saw everybody enjoying the beer, I think this is important to pay attention. The restrooms are basically behind this wall. Okay, so you've got the restrooms behind the wall, and then I'm sure it won't be important, but let me tell you where exits are. The doors that you came in, and should you hear any alarms or anything, you also have an emergency exit out the back there, what we call the garage. So welcome, enjoy yourself. It's a pleasure to have you, and we look forward to the session just like you do.
Thank you very much. Yeah. The nearest exit is behind you. So thank you again, Capgemini, to Bob Schwartz, to James Rowbury, who will be with us on the stage here today. Amanda Yu, who has been a very gracious host, and Nicole and Mel for helping as well. And then also to our sponsors and partners, Open Data Effort at Data World. Brian Jacob is here. Can you wave? Yeah, there he is. Thank you so much. And of course, I would particularly like to thank, where is he? Our wonderful moderator, Joel Macarer. That's it, right? No. Macarer. Better? It's Macarer. He gave me a good lesson and I failed. Sorry. But it's wonderful to have you here. It's just every Monday morning I get up early to get his newsletter at 6 o'clock in the morning. Never fails, and you get inspired for the week. So thank you so much. Also, let me thank our wonderful staff at Global Footprint Network. I would like to introduce. So I'm going to start with our research team. We have David. So wave your hands. David, Michael, and Ewan, Neil, and Robert Williams here. Our IT guru, and then our communication geniuses. We have our director of communications, Rana, back in the back, and also Letitia Melgis, who is going to videotape the event for posteriority of those people who couldn't make it, and Michelle Schaefer, who has been in communication with many of you, and then of course we'll have on this a chair here. We'll be having Laurel and talk more about her in just a second. But let me perhaps just start first with telling you more about Global Footprint Network. Susan Birds and I started in 2003. Why? Because it exists, because I'm in love with my private obsessions. And they started from spending my vacations as a child on a farm, where we were spreading manure and milking cows, and that's not a metaphor for how we run our non-profit organization. But it's more kind of what we learned is how, when the farm is too small, cows get too skinny. You know? In the same way, economies, if economies don't have enough resources, they don't do so well. So the resource part is really important for economies, and that's an aspect that's dear to our heart, and we believe underemphasized, the importance of resource security. When I was 10 years old, I experienced the oil crisis, and I lived in Switzerland, and Switzerland was incredibly proactive by saying, let's have 3 car-free Sundays to counteract this enormous crisis. And for us children, we were able to bicycle and roller skate on the highways, so we had a very positive relationship with the fossil fuel-free possibilities of the future. So for us, a fossil fuel-free future was just a dream. They're very relaxed, and that's still what we're trying to build, recognize that eventually our vision is we want to thrive and have great bicycle races and skateboard parties on highways on this one planet. So how can we all thrive within the means of just this wonderful planet that we have? And we love data. We're all, before we called ourselves data geeks, but we learned from data.org, we call ourselves data lovers. It's a bit more soft. And so we have this data platform that Laurel was instrumental in kind of helping get going with all the wonderful researchers at Global Footprint Network. And data, as you know, is very complicated already because grammatically data is plural, and should say data are complicated. It becomes very complicated, even to talk about data. But what we do is we use billions of data points and sieve through them and analyze them and look at them, and we find incredibly instructive factoids. Like, for example, number of planets that support life in human reach. 1. That's one of the data points that we use. And then we can get a bit more sophisticated, and you'll see tonight how we can make that factoid even more ununderstandable by kind of having trends and data points and looking at all these things, what they mean. And Laurel will give you a great introduction to that. But what we do in addition to that is we realize that in the end we need to make our data available to many people. We call it 1 million downloads. We want to have 1 million people who can use our information proactively, because ultimately we believe it's like architects who don't understand gravity have a hard time building straight houses. In the same way, if as economic planners we don't understand biocapacity, it's kind of hard to build economies that last. And that's why we also work more with cities and with regions. And we just had a call today with Nariño. Do you know where Nariño is? It's the southernmost province in Colombia that says we want to have a green economy. We need to live within the means of nature because we are not rich enough that we can afford making stupid mistakes. You know, we really live with nature's forces. We want to revamp our calculator. We have 2 million people who visit our calculator, even though we hide it on our website because it's so old. It's a lost flash application on the web. It's going to be in a museum pretty soon. But also, I think, pedagogically, it needs a bit of a spiff up. We also do something we'd love to work with all of you. If you are an organization we call Earth Overshoot, it's the day, Earth Overshoot Day. It's a day by which humanity has used the resources for the year. It falls, I won't tell you, you have to guess. But last year it was on August 8th. And the big novelty that we'll do this year, which will make it much more interesting, is that we also, we call it Move the Day. It's not only about being kind of overwhelmed by that we have used up the resources, you open your fridge and there's no beer in it anymore. It's because your spouse didn't buy beer, not because of the overshooting. But because we can have stocks, we can kind of store a little bit or overuse resources sometimes. So the beer won't stop on overshoot days. That's good news. But we can overuse nature for a little bit. But so we had done Earth Overshoot Day last year, and we reached 1.9 billion media impressions. So that's kind of, and that's what we want to beat this year with your help, and we're looking forward to that. So all of that would not be possible without you and our community. As a non-profit organization, we work with others, through others, and you can get engaged, use the data, you can engage your friends to use the data, have parties around the data. It's a great opportunity to have parties. Let's have a data party. People will just come and walk to your house. And of course also we couldn't operate without foundations and generous individuals and donors who have made our life possible and our work possible. And we very much hope, of course, also that you could be part of that community and help us in make this happen. Because it is possible to live on one planet. We've seen that for about 4.5 billion years as life on Earth. And it also will be possible in the future if we do well. And so that's kind of the introduction to that. So come and visit us, also on our website, which I think I would like to thank particularly Sal Roche, our board member, who has helped sponsor, make it possible that our website is much better. At the end, we'll have desserts later on, and we have, I think, a draw for wonderful Footprint T-shirts that we have. But that's all going to come after Laurel will be presenting us the data platform, and then we have a conversation with wonderful panelists back then. Let me introduce Laurel. As she kind of opens the PowerPoint presentation, she can inspire everybody to come. Even her parents came. So
My parents are here.
Wow.
And it has been wonderful to work with her. We have traveled the world together and been behind and in front of cameras and tried to be silly. And now it's your time to be silly.
It's my turn to be silly. Thank you, Matas. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Matas, co-creator of the Ecological Footprint and co-founder of Global Footprint Network. So you'll have to forgive me. I'm speaking in front of a whole bunch of people, so obviously I got a cold this week. So I've lost my voice, so I'll try to do my best and do the best to not go over. I get a little excited when I talk about this stuff because it's near and dear to my heart, so I've been told I talk too fast. So if I'm talking too fast, just be like, oh, slow down. Anyway, so first off, I wanted to do a couple of really quick thank yous. First, obviously, to Matas and Susan and Sandra and our board and the support that they've had for this project. We have been talking about this as a research team for a long time, but from a technological and funding perspective, we weren't able to do it. And so when we got the go-ahead to do this 6 months ago, we were completely thrilled and have been so excited about the support and outpouring of positive feedback that we've gotten. So thank you so much for that. And thank you obviously to the research team, to everyone who's ever worked on the National Footprint Counts before this. This is a culmination of many years of work, and we're delighted to share it with everyone. I would also give a shout out to everyone on the GFN staff because I have been a little bit non-responsive because I've been a little preoccupied with this project for the last few months. So thank you for putting up with me, and thank you more than anything else to my beautiful, understanding wife for being so patient. Thanks for So, enough of all the thank yous. So how many of you actually have heard of the Ecological Footprint before tonight? Hopefully many. Oh, see, this is gonna be super easy. I wasn't sure if anybody had heard of us before, or if this was just a bunch of people looking for a free beer. So I figured I would give you a little bit of Footprint 101. So Footprint 101, basically, the whole world is supporting us, right? Everything that we wear, all of the clothes, all of the chairs, everything our sushi habits, the cars, it all comes, the natural resources all come from the planet, and they're competing for space. So the infrastructure is competing for space for the cows and the crops. And because of that, we can sort of add it all up. All it is taking the production of those things and turning it into, doing a little bit of math, and we can turn that into space. And with that, we can compare apples to apples. We can look at ecological footprint and biocapacity. So because it's all just numbers, we can say, what is the difference? So ecological footprint accounting is being able to look at both the supply and demand. Okay, there's the demand. The footprint's the demand. There's a supply, that's biocapacity. So that was your idea. I'm gonna blame that one on Matas. prove my slides are up. And so what we do is we're kind of just accountants at this point, right? So we're taking thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of data points to add this all up to compare what we have with what we take. And this is actually a really empowering thing. And people talk about limits as being sort of this big scary thing, but to me, this is something that puts this in our hands. If we don't measure these things, we can't manage them. And so we're in this position right now where we can say, look, we have the numbers, we did the math, we can solve this. So the foundation of all of the work that we do, as I mentioned, is the National Footprint Accounts. And the National Footprint Accounts are doing that math. So we take lots of data from mostly United Nations sources. Most of it is open, so IEA, UN, FAO, Comtrade, all of these big data sources, and we do the math. We take that information and we track our demand on the biocapacity of the planet. So if you take the Earth, there's about 12 billion hectares of bioproductive land. And you can kind of split that up, and we can put those into sort of land equivalents, right? So if you're all familiar with CO2 equivalents, the global hectare is sort of the CO2 equivalent. So this gives us the opportunity to do that and be able to use those common units to make a statement about sustainability. And really, this terminology, footprint, is very common these days in different ways. But this is where it came from. This is the origination of that. You talk about carbon footprint, and people are talking about metric tons and all these other things. But this gives us an opportunity to bring that all together. So it's not just carbon. Although carbon is a huge and important piece of this, it's not the whole thing. So, without further ado, I'm very excited to tell you some stories. So, you guys are all familiar with the Matrix, right? This isn't like weirding you out at all. Okay. So on the research team, we spend a lot of time looking at numbers, right? And so we see all these stories in the numbers. And to me, that's a big thing. Like, to me, the stories are what this is all about. So we see the numbers and we see the stories, or we see some of the stories, but we don't see all the stories. So this project, in many ways, is a storytelling project. The Ecological Footprint Explorer is sort of the child of the National Footprint Accounts. It is our new platform to share the National Footprint Accounts and bring this information that we've produced out to the whole world. And to say that I'm excited about this and to keep blabbing on it, I'm not going to stop talking about it, and I apologize to all of my friends who I've blabbed their ears off about this in the last 6 months, but it's been really fun. It's really exciting. Anyway, back to the stories. So this is where the lab demo starts, and there's someone behind the curtain who's supposed to make this go, but I'm not really sure who that person is. So that's going to be, it's supposed to play like a little thing, and I don't know if it's actually going to work. Oh, there it goes. All right, sweet. I moved faster than I thought I was going to. All right, so on the site, we have taken the liberty of telling some of the stories we normally tell by visualizing our data in some of the typical ways. And some of that is around combining with other kinds of data. Some of it is about breaking it down. And what this does is it's really a place for us to showcase some things. So one real life example of how stories come out of data, it was about a year ago, we had a researcher from Bosnia come visit, which is another really cool part about my job, is I get to meet researchers from all over the world, because apparently everybody's heard of us in these really remote corners, and then they can visit, and then you get to learn about the cool things that they're doing with ecological footprint data. Anyway, so this gentleman came in and asked me, wanted to talk about our work, and I was like, oh yeah, we've got this public data package, it's in Excel, and it's really cool. But he says, okay, well, the first thing they always ask is, well, I want to see my country, right? Mm-hmm. That's logical. So I pulled up Bosnia, and he looked at it and he's like, oh my gosh, look at that. And I was like, oh no, there's an anomaly. This looks weird. That's not normal. Maybe there's something wrong with it. No, he says, no, that right there, that was our civil war. That's it. That 5-year period was the Bosnian Civil War. You can see the contraction of their economy in the resource use in those 5 years. And I wouldn't have known that. But he looked at it and immediately saw that story. And so, to me, this site, this platform for us is an opportunity to have other people bring that outside knowledge to these things. So this all exists, right? It's all ready to go, and you can kind of peek through it. And I really would encourage everyone to go through this and take a look, because there's some really interesting stuff that can come out. This isn't going to work either, I think. So give me a second. There it goes. Okay. So yeah. So again, these are all interesting stories that can come out. Sometimes the stories aren't the ones that are really easy to see. Sometimes we can see a story, but it's not actually a story, it's the beginning of a story. It's the question. It says, what is going on in the Philippines? So we look at this, and you can see, and the black line is GDP, and or the blue line is GDP, and the black line is footprint. And what you see here is you see some evidence of decoupling. And that's exciting. And so to me, I don't know the whole story here, but this is the beginning of the question. This is the beginning of a project. And trying to figure out where these come from and digging deeper into the data. And as a research team, we're small, we're scrappy, but we don't have the time to do all this stuff. But we know that there are researchers out there who have the time, who have the ability, and who have other opportunities to take deeper looks into this and pull out the stories that we know are in here. So to me, that's the biggest, most exciting thing. This is the beginning of a community. This is the beginning of opportunity. And it's the beginning of us being able to share this in a way that we never have before. We've always shared with academics, but this is a new territory for us. And it's fantastic. So, now if we can do this really quickly. This is, do this every time, sorry. So there's various features of the site, and I'm not going to get into them because you can go watch my YouTube video. Anyway, we have a YouTube video that goes through all of this, and I'm going to let you do that on your own. But one of the really cool things is that in addition to the work that we have up on our site, we have also put the national footprint accounts up on data.world. And I'm going to let Brian talk about this. But essentially, if you are sort of a more savvy data kind of person, this is sort of like the Quora or social media for data geeks. So you can bring in your own data sets, you can look at other open data sets that are up on their site, and start joining things and finding those stories and bringing them all out at the same time. So there are a few things sort of in the pipeline for us. We know we want to keep working with Data.world. They've been amazing partners. We have really exciting things coming down in terms of we're going to start doing data visualizations of the month. And we've already been asked several places for different languages, but this is just the beginning of this project for us. And I can't thank you guys all enough for being here and being part of this and joining this sort of Footprint Champions community that we have and is growing. So with no further ado, I would like to thank you very much and pass it on to Matt.
Thank you so much. I mean, it's just been such an absolute privilege working with GFN for the last 6 months or so. Worked a lot with Laurel and David, and then a bunch of people from our team. What y'all are doing with the Explorer? Oh, sorry. Is that better now?
Yeah.
Sorry. What I was saying was, it's been such a privilege working with GFN. Laurel and David have been great. A lot of the folks from our team have gotten to meet and work with them. What y'all are doing with the Explorer is just such an amazing resource. I think the title that we put up for my talk was Spinning Up Open Data's Flywheel. That's how we talk about what we're doing a lot. We really kind of believe that in order to get more open data out in the world, and get more data connected, a larger corpus of data for people to work with, and find those serendipitous connections that you can't find when you're just looking at closed sets of data. When you're not, we need to connect first the people who are working with data. And so, as using Matt's words, Our platform is a platform. It's a community of data lovers, and there are really, really awesome data parties that go on all the time within our platform. We work with a lot of our users are students, academic researchers. A lot of them are also groups of people who come together to accomplish a particular goal, maybe outside of the normal day-to-day work. We work a lot with a group called Data for Democracy, which sprung up around the end of last year. It's a group of civic-minded hackers. It's grown. It started around November of last year. It's grown to over 1,400 people, and this is just a loose conglomeration of people from all over the country, and now it's actually expanding a lot internationally, who get together around particular civic projects. So there are people working on election transparency, who are working on tracking the alt-right. There are people with a lot of different causes that they've come together to track, as well as people focusing on individual localities, people focusing on their city, on their country, on how they can use data and solve problems together. And I think data resources like GFN's data are just such a great resource that connects to so many of those data assets. So thank you for the opportunity to work with y'all. It's been great. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you for the letters.
I forgot to say something.
Oh, you want to say something more? Okay.
I was told that I needed to tell everyone that we actually have laptops set up in the back, so during that working later, if you want to go check it out, you can do that. You can also check it out on your phone. It's all good. But yeah, thank you so much for all of the work that you guys have done and for your team. We really appreciate it.
And some of you may have a computer at home. Works there as well. So let me try again, Joel. No, I try. Mac hour. Closer. Okay. So it's a great pleasure, Joel, to have you. He is the executive producer and co-founder of Greenbiz, an amazing publication. I don't know if you have subscribed to that one, but it makes your week every week, because sometimes it's a bit hard to hear all the dark stories, particularly in the current age of the administration, but he can lighten us up every week with fantastic stories from around the world, how sustainability can actually help business and where there is a business case for sustainability. And it's an enormous honor to have you, Joel, as our moderator here. Moderator is a bit of a strange name because we actually want you to be an inciter and a poker. But I think it's wonderful to have you here, and you will introduce the panel, I think.
I will.
So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mandis. Thank you for the GFN great crew. Come on, just get up here and have a seat. I don't know about you, but I'm glad I wore pants. Thank you all for being here. I think it's a really interesting topic. I don't think I need to really school anyone in the Bay Area about data and how much data is out there and how immersed and almost drowning in data we are. But I do have some, data points. Every minute these days, Facebook users share 2.5 million pieces of content. Every minute, Twitter users tweet 300,000 times. And it's these days, every minute, 1 or 2 of those comes from the White House, I think. Every minute, Instagram users post 220,000 new photos. YouTube users upload 72 hours of video, including Laurel's. Apple users download 50,000 apps, and we get, each of us, 200 million messages a minute, apparently. No, not that's in total. It feels like that. So, and this is, by the way, before we talk about every jet aircraft engine, the data pouring out of that, every turbine from a power plant, GPS, the smart building systems here, traffic signals, and everything else. This is just an amazing amount of data. And one of the challenges of all this is how do we, I'm sure most of you, being this great, intelligent thoughtful audience know that it's called the data pyramid, which starts at this base with data, which is really just individually symbols, and then above that is information, which is data that actually means something, sort of who, what, where, when. Above that is knowledge, which is information that actually has sort of context. And then at the top, on a good day at least, is wisdom. And so this, how we move this, move data up that pyramid, information, knowledge, and wisdom, and actionable is one of the great challenges. So we're going to talk about. We've got what are the implications of all this data for sustainability. What can it tell us about understanding ecosystems and modeling the things that we need to model in the world? How do we create smarter, more sustainable, resilient cities and places with all that? And how do we optimize our world so that we can, over time, individually and collectively, reduce that footprint? So, let's see how we're going to do this. Okay, so we're going to easy way or the hard way. So I'm just introducing from starting at the far end, just by way of title and everything that we'll get into. So what each of you is doing. At the far end is Jane Drobey, Global Head of Corporate Sustainability here at Gemini. Laurel, you've already met, star of YouTube. You're not going to live that down.
No, and I think is this on?
Yeah.
I think 17 people have seen it, and half of them are me and half of them are my mom.
Yeah. And at least 17 have watched it since Erin Cook is the sustainability director of a little startup called the San Francisco International Airport. Kieran Jane is the chief resilience officer of my hometown, Oakland, California. Karen Tuxen-Bettman is the program director of Google Earth Outreach. Is that the title? And Davina Herzl is the CEO of a very cool early stage company or startup, I don't know how you classify it, it's actually doing real stuff, called Acclima here in San Francisco. You need to talk. Not yet. Davina, first of all, let's start with you. Talk a little bit about, first of all, one of the data points is we have 3 mics for, well, I get to keep one here, 3 mics for 6 people, so yeah. We already have a resource constraint. First of all, tell us about Acclima, what most people probably don't know. Give us the elevator pitch.
So fitting that this is about data for sustainability, because Acclima was founded to create data to solve sustainability's largest challenges. And so we are using the new technologies that are available now, the convergence of what people are calling IoT, but the convergence of sensors and big data and machine learning to quantify air quality and climate change emissions in real time and at the hyper-local scale. And the reason we're doing that is that we want to use data to tell the story of the relationship between human health and planetary health. And it was really based on, the reason I founded the company is that I was really frustrated with the conversation about climate change. That it was about these big, abstract, planetary scales and time scales, when really the same emissions that are changing our climate are affecting human health. And so if earlier you said you can't manage what you don't measure. And so if we don't understand emissions and pollution at the hyper-local, at the community, at the city scale, then we're really not going to solve the problem. And so that's why we exist.
So one of the things I know that you're doing is, and this is back a couple of years ago probably, was putting air quality sensors on Google Street View cars to be able to sample on block-by-block basis.
That's right.
And is that still the main activity, or where does that go next?
Yes, so today we can, with small-scale sensors, at 100 to 1,000x cost reductions from traditional measurement equipment, we can measure all of the pollutants that are regulated by the EPA, all climate change gases, and a number of other pollutants that are bad for human health. And we can measure them at 100 to 1,000x cost reductions in real time. We're deploying our technology in buildings, but also at the city scale with our partners at Google.
So Karen leads the team at Google Earth Outreach. We've been working together to equip Google Street View cars with our platform to be able to measure pollution at the block by block resolution, but at the city scale. And so Karen and Google have been incredible partners in really providing us the scaling platform to bring this data to communities at scale.
And before we turn, Karen, is that data available now? Do you see it on Google? Why don't you tell us about how you see
Absolutely. So thank you. We are currently at the moment figuring out when exactly to release it. We want to pair it with some really good stories. We want to be able to show the power of the data and how it's really helping communities and decision makers. So this summer.
And what talk a little context of why you decided why you thought this was important, or how does this fit in with the larger Google Earth platform?
Yeah, thanks. So I lead the team Google Earth Outreach. Internally, we call ourselves Geo for Good, mainly because we're applying geospatial technologies and Google Cloud technologies to things that to basically create a positive impact around the world. And we do this, we focus on several different focus areas. So for example, climate and air quality are two big ones. We also do renewable energy. If you've heard of Project Sunroof, where you can Google your address and you can see what the solar viability of solar panels are for your house. Our team built that as well. And so we're just trying to use Google's data, pair it with other data, tell stories, give tools, and allow people, scientists and other groups, to use the cloud to really crunch a lot of data and come up with insights and tools that can be useful.
So this goes to eventually water data, to what other ecosystem health?
Yes, absolutely.
Let's go.
Yeah, well actually, so the tool that we use a lot and we train scientists to use, at least every month we do something where we're training scientists to use it, is called Google Earth Engine, and it's a cloud-based remote sensing in the cloud. So you can basically take Landsat imagery, 40 years of Landsat imagery and POTUS imagery, and you talk about data, there's 4,000 scenes a day being ingested into the cloud so that any scientist can have access to that imagery and analyze it, so you can understand real-time forest change. And so that was our first kind of focus area, was forests. Where are the world's forests and how are they changing in the last, say, 20, 25 years? And then we started doing it for fisheries, being able to actually do machine learning on where fishing vessels are and figure out if are they in waters where they're not supposed to be? Are they doing fishing there? What kind of fishing? Is it purse seining or long lining? You can basically look at the pattern of where ships go and figure out what their activities are. And for the first time, you're able to zoom out and see the world's fishing activity for the first time. And so we started realizing at Google Earth Outreach, we started seeing a common theme, which I think is really important, and that is globally comprehensive but locally relevant. So anywhere in the world, you don't have, we have really good data in California. But if you go to another country, say South America or Africa, if the data's there, it'd be hard to even get access to. And so the idea is to have a globally comprehensive, locally relevant. You can zoom in, you can see and monitor your forests, you can monitor your fishing, you can monitor your surface water, renewable energy, climate, air quality, and more.
Well, speaking of locally relevant, let's talk about Oakland. First of all, Karen, what is a Chief Resilience Officer? And just get the basic. Oakland is one of 100 cities that has, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, 100 cities that have Chief Resilience Officers. But talk about what does he do?
Sure. My position was actually started out of the Rockefeller Foundation, an initiative that they started called 100 Resilient Cities. And actually, it's growing more beyond that, because there are cities like Santa Monica that have taken on CRO positions even without being part of the 100RC network. And it really is this kind of, I think, realization at the local government level that there are some pretty big challenges that cities need to tackle, both environmentally, socially, to make their communities more resilient. So it is a broad term. In Oakland, we really do focus on the people first. So for us today, looking at resilience, it is really rooted in economic and access to affordable housing and whatnot, and how we can make people resilient today so that when some of these global challenges like climate change or catastrophic events like earthquakes happen, we have brought up our community to be resilient. So one of the data points that really frames the work that I do is in Oakland, you can live 1 mile away from another Oaklander and be twice as likely to be unemployed and live 15 years less. So there is a real interest in using data to help frame the problems as we've been talking on this panel, but also to help kind of inform maybe what some of those solutions are. So I am loving this conversation around the local level because we are working with community groups around community generated data and how to collect it. There's an organization called Streetwise, West Oakland based, which is an online platform to collect the stories and the information. So for example, around sea level rise, we know that this is a big meta concept. It's really hard, as some of our students recently tested, to actually get people to care about sea level rise when we're talking about some of these other social challenges. And what one of the community organizations we're working with, called the West Oakland Environmental Indicators Project, said to us, well, what about the impact of storm surges when you have hotspots for illegal dumping? What does a community look like then? Or neighborhoods that might be more prone, or buildings more prone to mold, leading to asthma and whatnot. So really putting kind of that human face with the data is really kind of how we're approaching it.
Do you have the data you need? Is there enough, too much, or the big gaps? Where are you sort of in that, creating that data picture?
Yeah, absolutely. So it is kind of all over the board, depending. I think speaking about Aklima and what Google Earth is doing is helping us kind of get that data real time. That's something that we just don't have access to today. We still have data locked in filing cabinets in the city of Oakland, so this idea of bringing it online and making it digital is really important to us.
I think you have people locked in filing cabinets in Oakland, so that's a little bit mess. So Aaron, I can't even imagine, the data set up at SFO, but talk about it from the sustainability lens. How are you using it? Is it day-to-day operations? Is it planning? Is it the new terminals that are going on?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty immersive. I'm like smiling at our enterprise architect in the back of the room, Isaac, who's nodding with a super cool hat, who I'm just kind of constantly inundating with questions and inquiries relative to his development of our data lake and having the ability to really harness and access that data for a variety of priorities across the airport. So, our airport is very committed to really echoing the value of kind of the environmental ethic, really, of our region. And so has made some very, what we call big, hairy, audacious goals as it relates to the environment and actually sustainability more globally. So we've got a 000 goal of getting to carbon neutrality, zero net energy as an airport campus, which kind of fun fact, we were going back and forth with the Rocky Mountain Institute on how to really define the source versus site energy recently, and they said we were like the USS Enterprise in terms of our position in trying to define that terminology. And then, of course, being a zero waste to landfill campus. And that's really modeling, of course, the values of our region, but also the fact that we're a department of the city of San Francisco, who themselves have really worked to kind of harness the power of data through Data Science SF and the open data portal that exists for the city. So we're really leveraging it for, number one, baselining, understanding what the impact of our campus is, so that we can figure out where the key action areas are that we can prioritize in terms of achieving those zeros, and then working on, the key decision points that really follow that. So, we're doing it as a driver for our capital plan and our capital plan delivery. We have a $5.7 billion capital plan that's underway. We're going to be deploying a massive sensor network and energy management control system that will help us, deliver very efficient operations and also create a better occupant environment using technologies, hopefully like the ones you've heard about today. And so, it's really the full bore commitment of the airport to do that. And I could talk forever, similar to you. I feel like I was listening to myself talk earlier. I'm so excited, I could just go on and on.
It's no coincidence that the excited people are on this panel. No, I mean, you've got the USS Penn Enterprise. I guess that makes you Spock, right?
Yeah, I think that's Isaac.
Okay, all right. But the airport has a pretty big footprint, and obviously that's right up against the bay, and I know that's been an issue in terms of expanding it and building a new runway, because it is now that when when Ray shuts down. It's foggy in San Francisco. What are the odds?
Carl.
Yeah. And so is data playing a role in figuring out how to reduce the entire footprint, vis-a-vis Ray and the city and everything else?
Yeah, I mean, certainly we're leveraging FEMA data to be able to understand where our floodline protection or our shoreline protection program needs to go. So that's more of our mitigation and resilience work. In terms of adaptation, sorry, that's not mitigation, adaptation and resilience. In terms of our mitigation work, we've been doing carbon disclosures and carbon accounting for 8 or so years. Many people probably don't know that there actually is an airport standard for that. It's called the Airport Carbon Accreditation, and there are 4 levels of certification, similar to like an ICLEI tool where it's just monitoring, reducing, mitigating, and then neutrality. And we're one of 2 airports in North America that have actually gotten to level 3 carbon accreditation, so mitigating. Unfortunately, we're fighting with Dallas-Fort Worth to be the first carbon neutral campus because carbon offsets are much cheaper in Texas, not surprisingly. So that's okay, that is public. Chris, their director, knows that we're fighting neck and neck. But that's really for us scope 1 and 2 emissions. It's really when you get into the scope 3 sector where you're looking at aircraft emissions. When people think of the impact of the airport and our operations, it's really that the majority of that impact, so 600,000 tons of CO2 come from our airline partners. And so we know that our carbon neutrality goal, which is really focusing on scope 1 and 2, cannot be the end game for us. We need to be working on ways to reduce emissions in that sector. And we do it through a variety of technology. So aircrafts can, when they come into the gate, they can actually plug in, shut off their jet engines while they're refueling and cleaning their airplanes in order to use our PC Air. We have electric charging available for all the baggage handlers, tows, and tugs that are out in the airfield. Just by doing that, we've basically been able to reduce the emissions 3 times the total amount of scope 1 and 2 for us, just through those types of mitigations.
So Laurel, let's go back to the tool. I think to me the value of the tool is a lot in